Breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report. Presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Welcome to Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, Thursday edition. Brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Vikings season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM and former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is Jason Stormer, does a fantastic job putting our show together. And Jason, what might have been this season, I think this could be our last Thursday night show. We're hoping not.
Yeah, don't say that, Jeff. Come on, we only just got started.
We'll be a wild optimist and say the Vikings are going to beat Detroit, and the Packers, Seahawks are going to lose, and either the Saints or the Bucks, and then the Vikings get in the playoffs. It's possible. Stranger things have happened in the wide world of sports in the NFL, and I've seen it. And we kind of saw it last year when the Seahawks snuck into the playoffs on that last Sunday when the Packers got knocked off by Detroit. But this year, it's kind of a long shot, but you never know. And I think from the Vikings standpoint, as Kevin O'Connell said this week, they just want to play better. They want to get the bad taste out of their mouth from the 33-10 whooping kind of they took at the hands of the Packers last Sunday night. Disappointing performance, as we know, and a lot of factors went into it, mostly a continuation of the lousy quarterback play since Kirk Cousins went down.
Yeah, and if we do make the playoffs, I don't think I'll be too terribly optimistic going into them with an 8-9 record, which, I mean, you know what? Teams have gone into the playoffs with below 500 records before. I remember, wasn't that the 2011 Seahawks team that faced the Saints? And that was the game where Marshawn Lynch caused the earthquake in Seattle. So, like you said, crazier things have happened, but still, the fact that we are starting Nick Mullins here in the regular season finale doesn't give me a lot of hope about, this 3% chance we have of making the postseason. So we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, not great. And Nick Mullins is coming back as a starter after Jaron Hall really made a mess of it in the first half against the Packers. Just the bright lights were too much for him. It's just not a good performance. He missing receivers. Watching the game tape, you could see Jefferson and Osborne on crossing routes coming open, and he was impatient, dumping it off to Johnny Munt and throwing it behind Johnny Munt for an early bad interception that caused problems. And then later on the strip sack, that was the big play in the game later in the second quarter. But as the Vikings have kind of reassembled this week, and O'Connell has talked about trying to put that bad taste in their mouth behind them and try to play a good game. And they did play the Lions tough 2 weeks ago, as we recall. It seems like ages ago.
I know,
but the Vikings were in the hunt at that point in the season as they went into that game against Detroit. And they still actually had a chance to win the division if they'd won their last two games. And the Lions had lost the Vikings had won their last three games, and the Lions had lost their last three games. But it was not meant to be on that particular game. On Christmas Eve, the Vikings fell 30-24 to Detroit. Now they meet again in Motown this Sunday, and we'll see how that one turns out. It's kind of an interesting quandary, I would say, Jason, from the standpoint that if you know that the Packers are going to win or the Seahawks are going to win and you can't get in the playoffs, is it better to win or lose that game? That's a big question. And now, first of all, I'll say it's kind of a moot point because the players and coaches are always going to try to win a game.
Right.
It's in their DNA. You try to win the game. But is it better, should Viking fans hope that the Vikings lose that game if they can't get in the playoffs? And I would probably say yes, because the difference in the draft choice could be significant. If they lose the game, they could get as high. Right now, they're number 12 in the draft order next April. If they lose the game, they could get as high as number 9, or they could stay at 12, depending on what the other teams ahead of them do. If they win the game, they could drop as low as maybe 15. Now, if they want to draft one of those top college quarterbacks, and kind of exciting when you watch guys like J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix, which the kind of guys that might be available around 9 to 12, shall we say. It's not going to be Caleb Williams and Drake May, and probably not Daniels from LSU either, but McCarthy and Penix could be there at that point. And I think one of those guys would look really good in purple from what I saw in watching those college football playoff games. And then Bo Nix from Oregon's also in the mix. So that's the question, the interesting question philosophically. Do you want the Vikings to win or lose this week? I would say if you're not going to make the playoffs, put on a good show, make it close, play the Lions tough, make them sweat it out like you did last time. But if you don't win the game, it may be better for your long-term future. So we'll see how it plays out. I never want to endorse a loss
Right.
or going for a loss. But in this particular situation, when they're going to be looking at quarterbacks, and they don't last that long, those top guys. No. So we'll just see how that all plays out. But let's hear from some of the particulars going into this game and hear from Kevin O'Connell talking about getting over that Packers loss and moving on.
Excited to get on the field with our team this week. We're really focused on this football game, understanding the challenge that it's going to be and knowing we've got to really move on the right way from our last opportunity. And we know we're capable of playing a lot better. And it's about the work we put in this week to get that done. Guys have the right mindset, good look in their eye, and we'll have a good week of preparation. And we know it's going to be a challenge. Going to Detroit, they've division champs and earned everything that they've accomplished this year. But we want to make sure we go up there and play one of our best games of the season. And our guys are focused on going to do that. Did want to address the quarterback position, like I told you guys I would. We're going to start Nick Mullins. To me, Nick is like what went into the decision last week. Nick has been very effective moving the team. We've been very explosive as an offense when he's been in there. Nick knows that the one area that we must focus on is possession of the football and not giving the football away. Really on some of those weighty type downs, 3rd down, 2-minute, where we're kind of in that throw mode. He's got to be a great decision maker, trusting the other 10 guys to do their jobs at a really high level and try to overcome, being on the road in a great atmosphere and against a defense that's playing really, really good football.
Yeah, I would question how good a football the Lions defense is playing, by the way, since they've been giving up a lot of yards in the passing game, and they are ranked 25th against the pass, so there could be opportunities. Mullins 2 weeks ago threw for 411 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he had those 4 very costly interceptions in that game that ultimately cost him the game. And I think for those people, too, who think that Detroit may lay down, may rest some guys, which Baltimore's going to do that this week because they've already clinched the top seed. They're going to rest Lamar Jackson. San Francisco, if they're smart, since they've clinched the top seed, I would think that they'll sit some of their top guys too, such as Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, etc. But for Detroit, they have an outside shot. It's a very slim shot at the number 2 seed. They're pretty much locked in at 3. They can still get to 2 if they win over the Vikings, but they would need both Dallas to lose at Washington. Not going to happen. And they need Philadelphia to lose at the Giants, which is more possible. The Eagles are really struggling with 4 losses in their last 5 games. But it's both those teams are on the road, so I think Detroit can figure, hey, we'll still have a chance. And I don't think, Jason, it's in Dan Campbell's DNA to ever sit guys or lay down. No. That's just not the kind of coach that he is. And he kind of indicated that, as we'll kind of hear from him a little bit later in the show. And so he has already said that he's going to play a starter. So the question is how long he keeps them in. If they get ahead by a couple touchdowns, then I would imagine you would want to pull Jared Goff and you'd want to pull some of your top guys, perhaps Frank Ragnow, the Chanhassen native who just made the Pro Bowl. And by the way, Daniil Hunter and Andrew DePaulo making the Pro Bowl for the Vikings announced this week. And you could certainly have added Justin Jefferson and T.J. Hawkinson to that list if they hadn't been hurt this year, and probably Kirk Cousins too, by the way. So, but speaking of Justin Jefferson, the last time these two teams met, he had a big day. He had 10 catches, 141 yards, and a touchdown in that game. And I mentioned the Lions' pass defense is shaky. So if you're talking about keys to the game, well, first of all, the Vikings need to run the ball better than they have the last couple of weeks. The offensive line's got to play better, and Mullins can't turn it over 4 times. I think it's too much to ask that he has a perfect game. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know that it's possible for Nick Mullins to not have something go wrong.
Yeah, we don't need a 158.3 rating from the guy, right? We just need to keep it competitive where we don't have to have a conversation at halftime if we're going to switch to another quarterback again. I'm sick of this. I just want a quarterback to play 4 quarters for the Vikings, and then we'll start thinking maybe about 2024.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about the Lions' pass defense and Jefferson's opportunity for a big game, and JJ is looking to crack that 1,000-yard mark for the 4th straight year. Needs 118 yards in this game. I think he'll get it. CeeDee Lamb last week had 227 yards against this Detroit secondary. So they're shaky on pass defense, which could indicate a high-scoring game ahead. So we'll see. Let's hear from Justin Jefferson talking about the season for him and the game ahead.
Yeah, it's been a complicated year, just with the injuries that has been occurring, the turnover battle that we face every single week. Just dealing with a whole bunch of stuff throughout the season. It's definitely one of the seasons that I can definitely say has been the most difficult that I've experienced, just all around in general. But I definitely would say that it's definitely been a team that has been staying close together also through the tough times. We know that, we don't like the outcome of the games. We don't want to go out there having 3+ turnovers. We don't want to, be that type of team. And we know that we have the talent on this team. It's just not our time, and it's just things that's occurring that we cannot control. So it's been a tough one, but I love being around these guys, and I appreciate the relationship that I have been building with these guys in this locker room.
And that's good stuff to hear, because Justin will be certainly looking at a monster extension in the offseason, and the fact that he has good feelings about his teammates, his coaches, I think that will play well into the negotiations as they try to get him extended. But it's going to be a pricey deal, well north of $30 million a year, which he deserves. And for reasons such as this catch he made in the last Lions game.
Play clock winding down. Now Mullins moving to his right on first down. Now he throws to the end zone. Jefferson, what a catch! Easy what happens when you start forcing the ball to the best wide receiver in the NFL. He recognizes his scramble, and then Nick Mullins smartly just throws it over to the sideline. He's like, Justin Jefferson, figure it out, bro. I'm going to throw it over there, and you figure out how to make the play. Jefferson with unreal. Look 3 catches during that drive of 20+, including the big one on 3rd and 19. If that goes incomplete, Vikings punt. Lions with an opportunity to turn this into a blowout.
And if only Nick Mullins, all of his passes were that good. Because that was a beauty. That was a beauty. We know that.
And I like how the color commentator described it, too. He's just like, all right, I'm Nick Mullins. I'm just going to throw it over there. JJ, you do the absolute rest. That kind of is the epitome of how Vikings quarterbacks have been going about their business the last several weeks.
Which is what Mullins did on 3rd and 27 in that game when he hit Jefferson for a big first down that kept that last drive alive. So we'll see if more of that can happen. And a couple more highlights from that game a couple weeks ago. Jahmyr Gibbs had a big performance. He had 80 yards rushing, over 5-yard average. He's one of the guys the Vikings run defense has to stop. They've struggled the last couple weeks against Detroit and Green Bay. Aaron Jones had over 120 yards last week. the Vikings' run defense was one of their strengths of the team when they were in the midst of that 5-game winning streak, and they were ranked 5th at one point. Now they've dropped down to 9th. But this is a guy that they have to stop, the rookie Jahmyr Gibbs.
So the Vikings lose another key defensive player. Handoff to Gibbs, touchdown.
And how easy was that? You and I could have run through that hole, Jason.
It was so easy, the clip only lasted 7 seconds long.
Exactly
oh,
right.
Boy.
Yes, indeed. And again, finishing up that last Detroit game, Vikings drive at the end of the game, convert that big 3rd and 27, get down in Lions territory towards the end. Jefferson is breaking free, and Nick Mullins throws a wounded duck behind him and intercepted. Game over.
Mullins over 400 yards today. From the 30 on first down. Mullins steps up. He throws. It is picked off. Melifonwu with the exclamation point for the Detroit Lions today.
I don't believe it was tipped at the line of scrimmage either.
No, it was not. It was just a terrible, terrible throw by Mullins, and that's part of his erratic play at quarterback. We're going to look at a couple more Lions highlights and talk about the Lions and hear from Dan Campbell, and then also break down some big games around the NFL. There are still 4 division races that are up for grabs, more or less. But first, let's talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. There are trucks, then there's the truck, GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your local GMC dealer. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade GMC. Well-qualified buyers get 0.9% APR on 2023 GMC Sierra light-duty models, plus no monthly payments for 90 days. See your local GMC dealer today. Length of contract limited. Deferred monthly payments for 90 days. Excludes residents of Pennsylvania. Must finance with GM Financial. Down payment required at signing if applicable. Finance charges accrue from data financing. Some customers will not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 1/31/24. The Lions had a very frustrating game a week ago Saturday night, last Saturday night in Dallas, where they actually drove down to the potential winning touchdown, and Dan Campbell goes for the win instead of the tie to go to overtime. Just a crazy scenario unfolds, and as it turned out, the Lions trying to use a little subterfuge, shall we say, on the Cowboys, and instead of just sending one guy in, Taylor Decker, who was going to be the guy to get the tackle on the tackle eligible from Jared Goff, they just decided to send 3 guys to talk to the referee, who got a little confused and thought number 70 was the eligible receiver, not number 68, Decker. And so here's how that play unfolded at the end.
Defensive lineman comes in. Play action. End zone. There it is! Unbelievable! The 2-point try is good, and it's Taylor Decker. What else could it be?
Touching by number 68.
So the call is an illegal touch, threw the flag at the end of it, and now a flag on Parsons. This one's picked, but Parsons came across. They definitely got Micah Parsons in the neutral zone.
Defense, number 11, moved into the neutral zone prior to the snap.
Here we go. Goff gets rid of it. Incomplete. And now the Cowboys maintain their lead.
And wow, what a crazy, wild, costly turn of events for the Lions. If they win that game and they beat the Vikings, they're the number 2 seed in the NFC. Instead, they're most likely number 3, which obviously they still get a home game, but perhaps not 2 home games. And just just such a disastrous sequence. It was surprising after all the chaos that Dan Campbell just didn't kick the extra point, go to overtime, and see what happens.
Well, that's my biggest question now after all that played out. Look, Dan Campbell's been aggressive a ton in his coaching career up to this point. But is he going to do that if he finds himself in the same situation in the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, at this point, I don't know, just because he's so aggressive. And sure, like, I think people forget that Dallas had that penalty and Detroit got some of the yards back to get to the 4-yard line to make it a little bit closer. But it's just, I just don't know to the extent of where this aggressiveness, just how far Dan Campbell's willing to take it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does in the playoffs. If you're a Lions fan, you definitely wish that he won't do that.
Yeah, it could happen. It would not be a shock, definitely. And the coach, it was interesting to hear his press conferences this week, and he didn't want to talk about this play, but the media kept badgering him in Detroit, and he finally said, hey, number 68, he did report, but maybe I shouldn't have sent 3 guys out there to talk to the referee and blah, blah, blah. Let's hear from Dan Campbell as he talks about, first of all, facing the Vikings this week.
So obviously, first day of the week, getting ready for Minnesota. They obviously present challenges defensively and also offensively, skill position, as we know very well. So got our hands full, but this is day one, so ready to go.
And then he had interesting comments about Brian Flores' defense, that obviously the heavy blitzing defense that didn't work so well in the last meeting against Jared Goff, and we'll see how aggressive he is this week.
I think the lessons are, assume you're not going to get the same thing you got the last time you played him. That's the lesson. So there's enough variety in what they do and how he does it. It's very aggressive, as we know. And so really you do the best you can. You give them the rules for the week, and you abide by those rules, and then you got to play ball. Your playmakers got to make plays. And we did that last time we played them. But there's nothing easy about it, So it's a complex system, and there's a lot going on. If you can hold up and you can get it into those creases, though, you can get some yardage out of it. But that'll be a challenge for us.
Lions, a talented team, and they will bring 5 Pro Bowlers to this particular matchup on Sunday. Aiden Hutchinson, Sam Laporta, Frank Ragnow, the Chanhassen native we talked about at center, Penei Sewell, and Jalen Reeves-Maben. Talking about Sewell, the right tackle for Detroit, and it's another thing I've kind of questioned from time to time this year on how Flores utilizes Danielle Hunter. And last week against Green Bay, he had him almost all the time over the right tackle. Now, I know Danielle is used to playing the left side, but sometimes he does flip-flop over to the right. And the Packers' right tackle, Tom, is one of the highest-rated tackles in the league this year. And so I thought that they should have moved him over a little bit to the right side. And I think this week in particular, when you've got Sewell, who's a Pro Bowl right tackle, and Decker is the weaker of the two at left tackle, it would certainly make sense when you don't have DJ Wanham in there to have Hunter lined up more over the right side. We'll see. Here's one more clip from Dan Campbell, again, talking about the game coming up and the fact that he's going to play his guys.
No, I mean, everybody's going to be wanting to see it, and that's why you need to win, so that you're going to be excited to watch the games and see what happens. Look, we got to go finish out strong. We need to go out, play good football, good, clean, solid, competitive football against an opponent that is going to give us everything they've got. And look, they are prideful. They don't like what happened the other night. I know what that is, and so they're going to come back with everything they've got at our place. So we got to be ready to go.
So Campbell's anticipating a tough matchup, and hopefully that's what we'll see, a good game and hard-fought game, and I'm sure the Vikings want to finish strong. Every player wants to put that last game on tape looking good as they head towards the offseason, whether they're going to be free agents or they're coming back, how they're evaluated by the coaches, and that last look still kind of lingers for a while. So that's going to be important to play well in this final game, if it is indeed the final game, and you never know how it's going to turn out ultimately.
And I'm sure a couple players got some incentives and some bonuses that they might want to hit by putting up some certain numbers in this last game too. So
yes, exactly,
I'm sure
right.
Plenty will be motivated.
Yeah, exactly right. And as I said, Jefferson wants to hit 1,000 yards. Mullins may want to have a good game. He wants to get re-signed for next year, and it's certainly been up and down. Now, I'm not necessarily endorsing that they re-sign Nick Mullins. I would rather see Kirk Cousins come back and then draft one of those college quarterbacks that we talked about. But we'll see how that all plays out. Before we kind of look around the NFL, and then Jason and I are going to make our picks on this game, let's hear from our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
There are trucks, then there's the truck, GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your local GMC dealer. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade. GMC. Well-qualified buyers get 0.9% APR on 2023 GMC Sierra light-duty models, plus no monthly payments for 90 days. See your local GMC dealer today. Length of contract limited. Deferred monthly payments for 90 days. Excludes residents of Pennsylvania. Must finance with GM Financial. Down payment required at signing if applicable. Finance charges accrue from data financing. Some customers will not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 1/31/24.
So the Vikings and the Lions go at it. Both teams have negative turnover differential this year. The Vikings -10, one of the worst in the league, as we know. They're 32 giveaways, second most, and the Lions are -2 on the season. Jared Goff went through a tough stretch during a time when they had lost a couple games. He had 8 turnovers in 4 games, and during that stretch they lost to the Packers and the Lions. But we'll see how it turns out this week. The Lions bring the number 3 offense in the NFL to test that Vikings defense. And the Vikings offense now ranked 12th. The Lions defense 15th overall. As I said, 25th against the pass. They're a pretty good run defense. They held the Vikings to 17 yards last time. That's going to be a key to the game. Get the running game going. If Mullins is dropping back as often as he did last time, that's why there's so many interceptions. You need that running game to set up the play action. I think on defense, Danielle Hunter has got to play more impactful than he has the last 2 games. No sacks in the last 2 games for Danielle, and only 1 quarterback hit. So he's obviously key. The Vikings secondary, I don't know, Jason, how much you can count on improvement from guys like a Caleb Evans and Mekhi Blackman, Andrew Booth, and Murphy is probably going to miss his 3rd straight game, and that's really hurt them down the stretch here, as injuries have on the offensive side, certainly. So we'll see how it plays out. And as we look around the league, and then we're going to make our pick on the Vikings and the Lions, as we said, the top seeds in each conference are locked up with the Ravens and the 49ers. The game of the week in the NFL Sunday night will be Buffalo at Miami. The Bills, you got to tip your hat to them. They were down and out, and Josh Allen has started playing better, not turning it over as much. Dalvin Cook's younger brother has come on strong and actually made the Pro Bowl. And he's a force. The Dolphins coming off getting clobbered by the Ravens 56-19 in a game where the coach kept his defensive starters in at the end and ends up getting his best pass rusher, Bradley Chubb, with an ACL, and just not a smart move by a guy you think is a smart coach in Mike McDaniel. And so I got to say I like the Bills in this game. I think that they're on a roll. They've won 4 straight. They've got momentum. They beat the Dolphins by 4 touchdowns last time earlier in the year, and as I said, the Dolphins' top 2 pass rushers are out. NFC East, the Cowboys profiting from the Eagles' free fall, who've lost 4 of the last 5, including to Arizona at home last week. And now the Cowboys just need to beat Washington. I think they'll get that done, win the NFC East. The AFC South is a 3-way tie at 9-7. Jacksonville wins the division if they can get a road victory at Tennessee. That 5-11 are the Titans. I think they'll get that done with Trevor Lawrence getting back in the lineup. If they lose, then the winner of the Houston-Indianapolis game will win the AFC South. And in the NFC South, Tampa Bay is on top at 8-8 and wins the division. If they can get a win at 2-14 Carolina, I think Baker Mayfield and company will get that done. And so that'll be week 18 in the NFL. We'll see if it's the final week for the Vikings this season. Jason, I'm picking Detroit in this game. I think that Campbell wants to finish strong. He doesn't want to go in the playoffs on 2 straight losses. I've got Detroit 34-24.
And my final score was Detroit 27-20. I'm right there with you. The other underrated thing about all this is the schedule. The fact that the Vikings and Lions are playing at noon and the Cowboys and Eagles don't play until the 3 o'clock window. So no matter what, the Lions are probably going to want to go into this game with the mentality like, all right, we got to win. Let's get up big. If that's not the case in the second half, then maybe we have to keep our starters in. So that might hurt the Vikings' chances of winning. But ultimately, I mean, we're kind of at the point where I think we're all ready to move on with the season. So, 27-20, the Lions will beat the Vikings and will result in a 7-10 record for the Minnesota Vikings this season.
Yeah, that would be definitely disappointing, but certainly not shocking considering you lose your starting quarterback.
Yeah,
and you don't have a viable backup. I think that may be the lesson from this season. Make sure you've got a really good backup quarterback, as we had with Randall Cunningham in 98 and as the Vikings had with Case Keenum in 2017. So we will be back on Monday to break down the Vikings and Lions game. I hope that Jason and I will be back next Thursday to preview a playoff game, but
knock on wood.
It's kind of a long shot, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. So this has been Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Vikings season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. This is Jeff Diamond with Jason Stormer. Everybody have a great rest of the week and weekend, and we will talk to you on Monday.